These stories are first-hand accounts shared by Reddit users, detailing unsettling real-life encounters that left lasting impressions. Each narrative provides a chilling glimpse into moments of danger, survival, and eerie coincidences that might make you rethink your surroundings. Disclaimer: these accounts were originally published by Reddit users and are presented as personal experiences. While they are described as true events, their accuracy relies on the original storytellers. The details shared here are intended for awareness and cautionary purposes only. Viewer discretion is advised.
I clean a hospital at night. For context, I got this job like 5-ish months ago. I'm in charge of cleaning all common areas, waiting rooms, hallways, and office spaces, etc., of the 3-story non-inpatient hospital. I have a couple of coworkers who clean other areas, surgical centers, urgent care, pediatrics, etc. So I don't see them very often. Last month, I had just gotten to the first floor and started my route with cleaning the bathrooms. The bathrooms face a hallway with a waiting room off to the left and some office spaces to the right. I had just finished the first bathroom and was heading into the second when I noticed what looked like a young woman peeking around a corner by the office spaces. I did a double take and she wasn't there. I was genuinely confused, as none of my coworkers looked similar to her. She had an uncanny valley look, and she was in front of a completely white wall, so it's not like my brain could have seen a poster and humanized it. Either way, I kind of just ignored it and continued my route. Not even 10 minutes later, I was bending over to change a trash bag facing the wall when my shirt was completely pulled away from my back and dropped. I spun around hoping it was one of my coworkers playing a joke, but nobody was there. I was super freaked out and kind of yelled, "I didn't say you could touch me," finished my job, and left. I haven't had anything even close happen to me again. No clue what it was, but it was creepy as F.
Story 2. Something strange happened one night at a hostel in Indonesia. I don't know if anyone will believe this, but it really happened to me a couple of months back when I was backpacking in Indonesia. I was staying at this small old hostel in a quiet coastal town. I won't say the name, but it used to be part of an old Dutch area. The place looked nice online, but in person it felt kind of forgotten. There were only a few rooms, and that night I was the only guest. The back of the hostel had an old locked gate that led to a small cemetery and what looked like the remains of a Dutch church. The owner mentioned it once and laughed, but something about it didn't feel right. That night, I couldn't sleep. The place was too quiet, and I could hear every sound. Around midnight, I started hearing footsteps on the wooden terrace outside my room, slow, heavy ones. It didn't sound like someone just passing by. It was more like whoever it was kept walking back and forth. The boards creaked with each step, and then it stopped right in front of my window. I just froze. I was sure someone was standing out there. I didn't move or make a sound. For a few seconds, I heard what I swear sounded like breathing. Not loud, but close. My window curtain was thin, and I could see a faint shadow through it. It looked tall, taller than a normal person. I wanted to call out, but my voice wouldn't come out. After what felt like forever, the steps started again, slowly, moving away down the terrace until everything went quiet. I didn't sleep after that. I just sat up and waited for the sun. In the morning, When I stepped outside, the dust on the terrace had marks in front of my room, like someone had walked there during the night. When I told the owner what I heard, he just gave me a weird smile and said, "You're not the first." I left that morning and didn't look back. Even now, I still remember those footsteps, slow, heavy, and too close. Story 3. I don't know how to explain this. I visited my hometown of Noonan, Georgia, an old Civil War hospital town. I was walking around downtown when I felt this dark, painful, suffering presence when directly in front of this old house on the strip. I stopped in my tracks and compulsively said aloud, "Oh, you're haunted, aren't you, love?" I made a note to my friend about the original wood flooring on the porch, talked about how I knew, then walked on. I got back to my hotel about 30 minutes later and noticed these bruises when I was washing up. I haven't hit my arm, fallen, or carried anything heavy. It looks like someone with small hands grabbed me with both hands. After this, at my hotel, I kept feeling like I wasn't alone. Feeling uncomfortable, I decided to take a shower. I was in there a few minutes when all of a sudden I heard a loud bang. I peered out of the side of the curtain and the bathroom door that I had left wide open was shut. I suddenly heard more banging and saw the door shaking as if someone was pounding on it. The front door was locked, so I knew no one got in. I flung the door open and nothing was physically there. I had this strange feeling that a woman was in my room. I looked down at my arm and got really annoyed and said, "Whoever you are not welcome. This is my body that houses my soul. Leave me and do not stay in this hotel." I hoped that would help, but the feeling didn't go away for long. I could feel the presence standing in the doorway between the bathroom door and the main room. I felt like she was trying to tell me something and wouldn't leave. I then had a random thought that I needed to open the door, so I did, and said, "Exit." I immediately felt a cold breeze move past me from the inside room to outside, even though I had the heater on. I haven't felt the presence since, but I haven't been able to sleep, so I thought I would share it here.
Story 4. The thing that appeared when I decided to end it all. This story is a true experience told to me many years ago by an old male friend whom I haven't seen in over a decade. Here, I'll call him Michael. Michael had been running a small home security company with his wife for about 8 years. The business had finally begun to get on track with a bank loan approved. But just then, his wife, who had supported the company as managing director, was killed in a car accident. After that, Michael could no longer focus on his work. Even knowing it was wrong, he started blowing off meetings, spending his days staring at his wife's photo and drinking until the day was over. He had completely fallen apart, living like an empty shell. Eventually, his business plan collapsed. The bank cut off his loan, and he shut himself in at home, leaving the office abandoned. By the time he realized it, both the debt and the company were beyond saving. And then he decided to end his own life. With his beard grown out, Michael went to a hardware store and bought the thickest rope he could find. Back at home, he went down to the basement, tied the rope to an exposed steel beam in the ceiling, and climbed up on a chair. When he put the rope around his neck, he felt far less fear than he had imagined. All it would take was kicking the chair, and everything would be over. He thought vaguely that stories about your life flashing before your eyes or needing courage to die were nothing but fiction, and he gave a bitter laugh. As he glanced down at the chair again, ready to finally die, he noticed something in front of him. He thought to himself,
"All right, time to die," and looked at the chair. But just as he was about to do it, he realized something was standing there. It was small and distorted, barely 3 heads tall, something not of this world. Long, greasy hair hung down, and through the strands he saw round, bloodshot eyes that never blinked. Its mouth stretched unnaturally wide into a devilish grin. At that instant, a single word flashed through his mind: imp. It just stared at the chair Michael was standing on, and he could clearly feel its pitch-black malice, as if it were silently urging him to fall. Stunned, mouth open, he stared back in disbelief. The thing seemed to realize it was being seen, and their eyes met. It, too, looked startled that he could see it. The corners of its mouth dipped briefly. Then it returned to its sly grin. "Mind if I take the kid if you're going to die?" it said, in a voice like a middle-aged man's, sounding almost pleased. Unable to comprehend the situation, he blurted out, "I'm not going to die," and in that instant realized the horror of what he was about to do. He still had a 5-year-old daughter. Since his wife's death, his in-laws had been taking care of her for a while, seeing how he could no longer manage anything. You might think he was a terrible father, but losing his wife so suddenly had truly broken him. For the first time in a month of isolation, he remembered having left his daughter in his wife's parents' care. He pulled the rope from his neck and stepped down from the chair. He heard a sharp ch of a tongue click, and the thing vanished, but the sense of its presence lingered. He went straight to his wife's parents' house, apologized to his in-laws, and embraced his daughter. Both she and his in-laws cried and forgave him. Now he's paying off his debts while raising his daughter and working desperately as a sales rep. He told me this at the end. "I don't know what happens after you die, but things like that definitely exist. They pick up on the scent of death coming off weakened people who are thinking of dying, people like I was back then, and they come for you."
Story 5. Brother Haunted Us. My brother died when he was 12 by accidental drowning. He started haunting the family a few months later. The first weird event that was attributed to him involved a figurine music box. He had picked out the music box for our mom's Mother's Day gift that year. It's a wind-up box with an on-off switch. One evening, everyone is seated at the dining table. We are about halfway through dinner. Music starts playing from the other room. Everyone looks around the table. No one has left since the start of the meal. Dad gets up. We all follow him. He stops in front of the china cabinet. The cabinet doors are closed. The music box is behind the glass, rotating around, playing a tune. Dad opens the cabinet door. The music stops. He picks up the figurine and turns it over. The switch is in the off position. He places it back on the shelf, closes the cabinet, and we all follow him back to the dining table to finish our meal in absolute silence. As Dad sits back after dinner with a cup of coffee and a roll of his own cigarette, he says, "Billy was always a bit of a practical joker, wasn't he?" I inherited that music box when my mom passed away a few years ago. It sits quietly on my shelf.
Story 6. I had a dream about an old fling and found out he passed away. I'm a 43-year-old woman, and when I was about 19 or 20, I met this guy, let's call him Jay. We were more like friends with benefits, but I definitely liked him more than he liked me. He was loud, a little obnoxious, and kind of hard to deal with at times. Still,
I liked him. Once I turned 21, we went our separate ways. You know how it is, newly 21, living near a big city, going out with friends, clubbing, meeting new people. I lost touch with Jay completely. From what I remember, he tried to reach out a few times, but I brushed him off. Fast forward about 5 or 6 years later, I had this really vivid dream about him. In the dream, I was in a parking garage and Jay was chasing after me, trying to get my attention. I remember turning around and yelling, "No, I didn't like how you treated me." Then I ran off. When I woke up, it stuck with me. The dream felt too real, like it meant something. I couldn't shake the feeling, so I decided to look him up. I couldn't find much about him online, so I searched for his mom. She was easier to find since she was a real estate agent and we happened to share the same last name. I found her number and actually called. When she answered, I said, "Hi, I don't know if you remember me, but I used to know your son Jay. I'm calling because I had a dream about him. How's he doing?" There was a long pause, and then she told me that Jay had passed away. He died in July of 2005, and I'd had that dream around October of 2005 or maybe 2006. Apparently, he'd been born with a heart condition and passed away in his car on the side of the road after feeling unwell. I was speechless. I remember just sitting there after that call, completely stunned. I couldn't believe it. It still gives me chills thinking about it because in that dream, he was trying so hard to get my attention and it happened after he had already passed away. Part of me truly believes that was his way of reaching out, maybe to say goodbye or make peace. I just wish I could have seen him one more time.
Story 7. My family. I died 8 years ago. It wasn't particularly tragic or unusual, just a car accident. I don't blame the man who hit me. He was speeding because his wife was in labor and there was black ice on the road. He lost control of the car and I lost my life. It's not his fault. I know that. I'm not cruel. I am not vengeful. If anything, I'm the opposite. You see, I don't have any family left, and I had lost a few friends around that time. When it was time for my funeral, the only people who came were my boss and the family who killed me. The wife held her newborn daughter close to her chest. I hated my boss, and the cemetery was awfully lonely, so I followed the family home. Lily may as well have been my own flesh and blood. She was sweet and bright and oh so very small. She had trouble sleeping if someone wasn't rocking her crib, and her parents were so tired. After they put her to bed, it was easy for me to rock her crib for her. I didn't get tired. I could help her. As the years passed, Jack and Lori realized that they weren't alone in the house. It didn't take long from there to make a connection between my funeral and when I had showed up. And I'd never been malevolent, so they weren't afraid or angry. They started to burn candles on the anniversary of my death day. They left an empty chair for meals and holidays. I really felt like a member of the family. Someone is trying to force the door. It's Lori's ex. He's obsessive. He's angry. He's going to hurt the family. My family. The thing about ghosts is that the more offerings you get, the stronger you become. I'd been enjoying candles, trinkets, and even the occasional food item for the past 5 years. I was strong from that. The knife feels warm in my hand, a shock of heat against the ice of my skin. Lori, Jack, and Lily are my family. I care about them, and they're not going to join me yet.
Story 8. Birthday Girl.
Good morning, sunshine. Time to wake up. I open my eyes and see Nurse Judy, ready to give me my morning injection. I sit on the bed and roll up my pajama sleeve. I feel the needle under my skin and the medication flowing inside my veins. The nurse gives me a wide smile. Good girl, you can go to the canteen now and have breakfast with your friends. Friends? I don't have friends here. My friends are almost 60 miles away from me, enjoying life, learning new stuff, making out at parties. Certainly not spending their youth in a psychiatric ward. My parents put me there. It was after another anxiety attack at school. I lost control and tried to do something stupid. Now, everything seems stupid to me. I pass by Nutsy Nora's room. Her yelling is impossible to ignore. She keeps screaming Kelly and Jenna over and over again, whatever those names mean. I see 2 doctors rushing to her room with a set of tranquilizers. This place is full of people like her. I don't think I belong here. I enter the canteen and hear a loud, "Surprise!" I look around and see other patients gathered around a cake with number candles, 1 and 7, and an inscription, "Happy Birthday, Robin." Right, it's my 17th birthday. Yay, I totally forgot. I force myself to smile and blow the candles. The cake tastes like soap or a cough syrup. I hide both candles in my pocket when nobody's watching. I guess it's the only gift I can count on today. I stopped one of the nurses on the way back to my room. I ask if my parents are going to see me. She shrugs and walks away without saying a word. Bitch. As I lay in bed, I stretch my arms and look at my hands. They look so weird. So damn weird. Maybe it's a side effect of one of those medications. Nurse Judy interrupts my contemplation. She storms in with the afternoon dosage of pills. "How are you feeling, my dear? Did you like the birthday surprise?" she asks, with that annoyingly sweet smile. Yeah, I forgot today's day. She takes my hand and says, "Oh, don't worry, darling. It happens to everybody." As she holds my hand, I ask her why my skin looks so strange. Nurse Judy gives me a sympathetic gaze. "I think it's normal at your age. Don't you think so, sweetie?" Is she trying to make a fool of me? Oh, I've had enough. "But I'm only 17, I say imploringly. "I don't know any other teenager with hands like these. Just look." I take the candles out of my pocket and almost rub them in her face. "You see 1 and 7, 17, I bellow. Judy gently takes the candles from my shaking hands. "Robin, it's not 17. Let me show you the right order. It's 7 and 1. 71.
Story 9. 24 Hours. Yesterday, Todd made it his mission to sleep with as many women as possible. He managed a whooping 37 in just 24 hours, an insurmountable amount for an average day. But this was not an average day. Who was going to say no to some sex? He didn't know he'd soon be a father to 6 illegitimate children, or he wouldn't have done it. Yesterday, Anne snapped and slit the throat of her toxic ex-husband. The neighbors walking by saw the whole thing through the window, but simply looked at each other, shrugged, and kept walking. Anne continued her day as usual, leaving the still warm body on her floor. She didn't know she would be arrested for murder, or she wouldn't have done it. Yesterday, Lacey took her husband and kids on a drive on the winding roads next to the ocean.
Her hands shook as she gripped the wheel, while her kid sat oblivious in the back. She and her husband shared a meaningful look as she jerked the car to the right and into the crashing ocean waves. She didn't know she would be shunned while laying 6 feet under, or she wouldn't have done it. Yesterday, the news was announced that an unsurvivable asteroid was headed straight to Earth. Yesterday, the world erupted into unprecedented chaos as everyone had to decide what to do with their last 24 hours. But today, utter and complete pandemonium occurred, because the asteroid missed.
Story 10. The Blind Child. Sylvia pointed a trembling finger at my brother Arthur. Her milky, unseeing eyes gleamed in his direction, and his wife, Agnes, trembled with indignation from across the table. My husband's face colored as he dropped his fork and dragged our daughter back into her bedroom, scolding her as they went. The rest of the night was awkward, and the pep in our conversation never recovered. 2 weeks later, Agnes was stabbed to death in her office parking lot. An inebriated college student found her, almost vomited all over her, and called the cops. My brother swore that he bore no ill will against my daughter, but I could tell that he was lying. One day, the middle-aged woman who taught my daughter how to read her braille called me. "Ma'am, I don't know what's going on, but your daughter's been whispering electrocution, electrocution for the past half hour, and it's starting to distract her from her lessons. Could you please talk to her?" I did. Sylvia, in her 9-year-old lack of understanding, told me it was just a cool new word she learned at school. The death of an electrician made headlines the following week. It was a freak accident involving tangled wires in a bucket of water. Sylvia's teacher's face was blurred for privacy, but her voice was as familiar as anything to me. "He was my partner, my soulmate." While my husband was working late, I called Sylvia into the living room. "Honey, is there anything Mommy should know?" She hesitated. "Honey, you know you can talk to me." She denied it once more. "I have no secrets from you, Mommy." My husband walked into the living room with his hair tousled and his eyes distant. Instead of rushing to hug her dad, Sylvia simply turned towards him. "Fire," she said. My heart stopped. Every time Sylvia said something like that, it was the person's partner who died, and for that reason too. A fire? Was Sylvia merely making predictions, or was she putting a curse on me for snooping in on her business? Why, this devil child. I grew paranoid, checked the appliances and electronics constantly, and cleared the house of any fire hazards. That was my life over the next few days. All the while, I kept my eyes on Sylvia. Sylvia, I had grown almost hateful towards my own daughter. My husband came home one night, wounded and blackened with soot, while I sat in the living room and Sylvia listened to the radio beside me. "What's the matter?" I asked. He gulped. "One of my colleagues, her house caught fire. She was trapped inside, but I managed to escape." That turned the gears in my head. What were you doing in her house? The expression on his face was a sufficient admission of guilt. I opened my mouth to speak. No, to scream. But a smaller voice from beside me looked at me and whispered, "Poisoning."